Welcome to the Celebration of You. I'm your host, Holly Dowling. I'm thrilled to share with you incredible people from all over the world who are living and leading extraordinary lives. From overcoming immense adversity to discovering the secret sauce to leading with courage and grace. Their stories are going to bring you hope and inspiration. Now let the stories begin. Welcome, everybody, to the Celebration of You. And as always, I love to start by saying thank you. Thank you to all of the incredible listeners all over the world who have graciously, and your loyalty has been amazing as you've listened to stories of hope that have given you inspiration, and you've shared it with your friends and family members. And most of all, thank you for all the incredible nominations. So many people have reached out to nominate someone around the world that they feel their story needs to be heard. So again, just want to say thank you to all of you. And today, as always, I always get excited about celebrating someone that has come into the path of my life. And everyone knows I'm passionate about divine intervention. I'm passionate about spiritual awakenings and serendipity. So when you're open and you live a life of being in the flow and open to whatever's going to happen, you never know who you're going to meet. And I have met a beautiful, amazing woman who I'm now going to call a friend, who I can't wait for you all to meet. And in the course of sitting at one of our favorite places to go for some good Mexican, we were sitting across from each other and started a conversation that led to me saying, I have got to have you on the show because you're passionate about what you do and your story is amazing. So welcome, Cherri Lindquist. Who knew having Mexican food would lead to you being on the show, girlfriend, right?
Right. Thank you very much for having me, Holly. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, I am thrilled because just getting to know, well, there's so many cool things. So before we even dive into what you're doing, happy anniversary, because today is your 20th wedding anniversary.
Thank you very much.
Yes, and you'll have to tell us in a few minutes about how you and your darling hubby had a virtual wedding date last night, but we'll get there in a minute, okay?
Got it.
So tell us about, so you're in healthcare. I love the fact that you were the first person to graduate in your family and you started working in healthcare, and then you were really encouraged to go in to nursing. And this has all been a manifestation of where you are today. But let's face it, in today's climate right now, healthcare is at a top conversation. And so when we met, and knowing you're passionate about educating people and the awareness around even COVID, what we're dealing with. So tell us about what you're currently doing and the company you're with and who do you manage, and tell us all about why you're passionate about what you're doing.
Oh, that's going to be easy for me to talk about, Holly. So I am very passionate about nursing education, as we discussed the other day when we met. So I am a nurse that manages a phone triage call center that focuses on employees who get hurt at work for the entire United States. I manage about 18 nurses, and what we do is we take calls from folks all day long who get hurt at work and may need to talk to a nurse. Now, enter COVID-19 at the beginning of the year, and our lives just really changed. It wasn't an illness that we knew about, as most of the general public knows. It's brand new. And a lot of businesses closed. A lot of businesses are still closed. And we found that I needed to not only train my nurses how to take COVID-19 calls and what to tell patients to look for, but also we needed to help employers know how to keep everybody safe. This really met two of my passions. I'm really passionate about community health in general, always have been for the past 20 years. I want to make sure that, the general public knows what we should know, just like getting your flu shot every year, all those basic things, washing your hands. And then when COVID-19 entered in, it became clear that we had all these businesses, whether they were our customers or not, that didn't know what to do, didn't know what to do for their own families, for their employees, for their customers. And as the CDC has evolved, we figured out that it just wasn't known by them either. So what we have done is basically created a program to educate employers employees and the general public about things to keep themselves. I don't like the word safe. I prefer the word healthy.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's danger in anything that we do. I mean, I went on a beautiful walk this morning. Something could have happened to me there, non-COVID related. So I like to say, keep us healthy.
I love that
And
you use that expression. I have to say, I'm a fan of that as well. And you can just hear it in your voice, you know. So I have to ask you this as we're talking, Cherri, because, you know, when you think about the climate and the dynamic of healthcare and how much, just as you said, come January, February, right, our world has changed, and how educating employers and what you do and how you train your nurses. What would you say? I mean, I'm sure it changes every month. I mean, you have to stay so close on top as much as the CDC is saying things change constantly. Like right now, as we are recording this in September, what would you say, or and you're educating your nurses, are the top most important things we need to be aware of right now to stay healthy? Because that could have changed every month for the last 6 months,
it
right?
could have changed almost every day. Some days it seemed like the story changed twice in the same day. And so I was experiencing those frustrations along with the rest of America and the rest of the world. I would say the top priority remains the same. Practice good hygiene, wash your hands. These are all things we should have been doing all along. And we're all taught this as a young child, but as life goes on, we get a little complacent. I admit myself, I often, even as a nurse, I wasn't washing my hands necessarily before I ate every single time. Things that we know we should do. So definitely good hand hygiene, making sure if you're sick, stay home. I think it is part of the American way that we go to work no matter what. I grew up in a very diverse childhood, and I was just raised you go to work no matter what. Unless you're dying, you go
Yeah.
to work. Unless you have a fever of 104, which as an adult, most of us feel like we're dying when we have a high fever, you go to work. So the main things are make sure you're doing your hand hygiene, stay home if you're sick. Don't visit grandma and grandpa. They need groceries? Yes. Have someone else do it. We have delivery options. There's just so many options out there. So, despite all the changes, despite all the symptoms that COVID 19 might have, um, despite any of that, we should always be doing that. And I hope going forward in the future, we don't ever forget that.
I agree. And you know, it's interesting. My hubby and I were talking the other day just about this, Cherie, saying, you know, if this could really change for a good way, the consistency about how we are all far more heightened and aware of our hygiene and how we are being extra careful and taking care of ourselves, even in the food and beverage industry. Hopefully, this just sticks and people are so much more, you know, cognizant of it. And it was interesting. We wondered, and I'm curious your thoughts on this because we're about to hit the traditional flu season. But it seems as though everybody's being so extra healthy. Do you feel this could have a positive impact on hopefully reducing the amount of the flu spreading since we're so obsessed with COVID, right?
Hands down, it will absolutely decrease our flu numbers. There's never a guarantee in life or medicine,
Yeah.
either industry. Um, but if we continue with these general practices, stay home when you're sick and wash your hands, flu season will go down, cold season will go down. Thinking about the kids returning to school, pink eye will go down. Um, I mean, kids are more aware now. We always, as parents, try to teach our children to wash their hands, but now it's become just a way of life, almost like putting on their shoes. That
Yeah.
all of those childhood illnesses, the colds, the runny nose, pink eye, the flu, I think all of that is going to go down. And if we remain steadfast, it will continue that way. And just think about a life looking at the positive side of things. Think about a life where parents didn't have to miss work because their child had pink eye and can't go to school or to daycare. I mean, there's just so many benefits that can come from what we've learned. Uh, Nothing takes away the loss of those that we've, lost due to COVID 19. but there are losses every day in every type of illness, cancer, heart surgeries, depression, overdoses. We can learn from every experience. It's what we choose to do with that information is really how our lives end up better or worse.
Absolutely. And, added to that, the hand washing. And I have to say, I'm a really big fan of the social distancing. And we don't walk into you can't right now, but we've become another habit I think that's been put in place is wearing our masks. Like it's now become just society, right? You walk into a grocery store, and even though, yes, we still have to, I think we're going to see a lot of people that will continue to do that because it's about keeping ourselves healthy, right? I
I
mean,
think you're right. The mask, it really does protect other people out there. You may feel fine and you may be medically um, more clear or healthier than someone else. You don't know who's going through chemo or anything like that when you're walking by them. One thing that I am teaching folks to use, I don't like the word social distancing because social is really, as humans, we're social people, and depression has really gone up during this time because we're not able to get together with folks. I try to teach my staff to use the word physical distancing,
oh, I like that. Yes, I love that.
physical versus social, because as humans, we need to be social, most of us anyway.
Well, yes, except for the introverts out there that are in heaven during COVID.
They're loving it.
They
I
are.
work with an introvert, and he's just like, he goes, well, this is like my normal life. This is like perfect.
Oh, I know. And I do a lot of work, as you know, with leaders all over the world. And I'm always like, especially right now, doing a lot virtually. And I'm like, remember, this is ideal for your introverts, but your extroverts are going nuts
Yep.
and you've got to create consistency and connectivity so that they can, and not just be on phone calls, but get them to see each other, and because they need that. So understanding your people is one of the greatest gifts that I think's come out of this for leaders, especially. It's really forced people to truly understand individuals. They're human beings, not knowledge banks, right?
Correct. And the happier an individual is, the more productive they are, the better your company is, the better the community is. Happy people are successful people.
And who doesn't want to work with and work around happy people, right? Right. We even want to come home to a happy environment. So it has a ripple effect. Well, what I have to recall too, and I got to ask, and I think this is so cool because it's so profound on the person that I got to know in you in our time of meeting at the restaurant and then talking and now having you on the show. And that is, it just speaks volumes because I had no idea. Like, this is, talk about serendipity. Today, the day we are having this interview, is your 20th anniversary. And one of the things that I found mind boggling was that your husband and you have not seen. Tell us about your husband. I know you can only tell us enough of what he does, but explain to us the situation in your life right now.
So the situation in my life is that my husband has always traveled quite a bit for work, and he is overseas right now. He went over, the last time I saw him was on December 3rd of 2019. Normally, he is gone between 3 and 4 months, sometimes 4.5, and then home for 3 to 4 weeks, and then on to his next project. And unfortunately, that is kind of when COVID-19 started to hit. So he went back to work overseas as expected and planned. We had a wonderful vacation planned for April, which is when he was supposed to be back. Unfortunately, there was the travel ban put in,
Oh,
which we know the travel ban for China started a little bit earlier, but then in March, it kind of started to spread throughout Europe. And then the end of March, pretty much all of Europe and the US was basically shut off from each other. So if you were someone who was stuck over there and you had to get here, you were allowed to travel. But if it was going to be a temporary kind of like time off, you were not allowed to travel. As of today, on our 20th wedding anniversary, he is still not allowed to travel. So we were at over 9 months.
oh,
We've been together almost 24 years. We have never went longer than 5 months without seeing each other.
oh.
And so it has been a very difficult time for us. But at the same time, your outlook on how things are occurring to you and your attitude really it really sets the bar for, how you're going to deal with it. So as I had mentioned to you before, we try to remain positive. It is really hard sometimes, but we're thankful. We're healthy. We're both healthy. Neither of us that we know of have had COVID-19. Our family is healthy, and we're employed. That is not something that everybody can say right now. And I love my job. I mean, there is no other job I would want to do. Company Nurse, which is the company I work for, came to me in a serendipity type moment as well. It was a very random thing that I applied for this job. This job and COVID-19 and learning what the CDC says is getting me through missing my husband. So it
Oh,
almost seems like
yeah.
an oxymoron to say COVID-19 is making me miss my husband, but it's filling the time where I miss my husband.
Yeah.
So, as you mentioned last night, it's a different time zone, completely different day where he was. We did a FaceTime anniversary dinner yesterday because it was already our anniversary there, and we will be doing the same tonight. So, again, still celebrating the important moments in life
Mm.
and looking forward to the time when we're together again.
Oh, and you know what? I think hearing your story right now, I'm literally sitting here smiling and my eyes are closed, but I'm just sitting here. My hands are folded, like, when you're in a prayer mode, like grateful mode.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is the spirit that I saw in you when I met you. You have this gorgeous light about you, Cherri. You have this beautiful attitude. There's so many people that need to be reminded that, do you realize things may not be perfect, but in the midst of COVID and this pandemic and all of the things that are happening, could we just take a moment and just focus on what do we have to be grateful for? Right? Like, you've never been apart
Yes.
this long, but you're both grateful that you're healthy. You're grateful that you can look at what we have. We have FaceTime. We have ability, with all of the technology today, you can actually see each other and talk and have a virtual
There's
wedding
so many
anniversary
things.
date,
Yeah,
right?
there's so many things. And if you focus on the negative, whether it's this or anything else, it really just hinders your entire life. And negative energy takes so much energy, literally.
That's not a
Not saying
joke.
that
Actually, it means
we
it's
don't
true.
ever, yeah, we don't ever, it's not that we don't get sad, we just don't stay there.
Yeah.
And, you should feel those feelings, but always looking for, what bright spot in the moment is really how we live our lives.
And that is what I think. Now I know. Remember, I told you too. I said, I meet people, I know a little bit, and I go, you have to be on the show. And then I don't know much else, but I always know there's something about you that brings people hope. And without even having asked this question before, you have this amazing gift of gratitude, of light, of positivity. I would love to know, take us back to and it might go back to when you were a little girl, maybe it was high school, maybe it was, um, you know, going to nursing school. I have no idea. But take us back to a pivotal moment in your life, Cherri, that really had a monumental impact. I mean, maybe it was facing some extreme adversity. I don't know what that is. Maybe it was an opportunity that you never imagined you would get. But can you take us back to a pivotal moment in your earlier life that could have a real big impact on who you are today? Because you just have this beautiful attitude and approach to life.
Well, I think there's a couple of moments. I was thinking about this just in case you asked a similar question. I think there's a couple of moments. I was very blessed to be raised by a mother who gave me this attitude to begin with,
Mm.
always looking for the positive in any situation. We were very poor. She was married several times, so we were always moving from one house to another, it seemed like. But she always said we can always have control in our attitude and our work ethic. And
Mm.
she literally told us that from the time I might have been 4 or 5. Fast forward a few years after I'd graduated high school as the first person in my family, she was adamant that I go to college. I didn't want to. I had a set amount of money. And so I literally picked up a book and I said, "What can I do with $7,000?" And I
Mm.
just flipped through the book. And I became a medical assistant at first before I was a nurse. Fast forward to 2008, and my mother passed away unexpectedly of lung cancer very quickly. She was 50, and she had always pushed me to be a nurse. When she was sick, there were so many carrying people in different points of her treatment, whether it was someone helping her get vouchers for a taxi if someone couldn't take her, or someone helping her with chemo or radiation. And I just thought to myself, my mother always wanted me to be a nurse. I could see myself doing something similar to this. She passed, and I went back to school the next year.
Wow. Okay.
So
I'm covered
it
in
was just,
goosies.
yeah, it was
Literally.
just, I was set up to work hard. My mom said, you have to do this, as a 18, 19-year-old. And I was already dating my future husband. It's the last thing I wanted to do. And then I met a variety of nurses. And so I wouldn't say that nursing was my passion growing up, like a lot of nurses are. Education and educating people has always been my passion. This like mixed the two things together.
This is unbelievable. Okay, literally, my friend, I am sitting here going, so I didn't know this. So everybody knows I like to have the element of surprise, right? I just know there's something. It's the spirit moving through me, right? But I know there was something. I knew there was something. And to go back to when you were that young and even throughout moving a lot and the multiple marriages, she never lost the gift of giving you the lens to have the best attitude and to have a great work ethic. And to have that's what I see in you when I met you.
That's
And
priceless to me.
it is. It's priceless to any human being because look how many people, of course, in healthcare have you come across that, and I'm going to say this boldly, and you can push back on me, but I'm a firm believer right now, a firm believer that psychological things manifest physically. So
Oh,
when
absolutely.
correct, right? So that
Yes.
negative attitude, that woe is me mentality.
Yep. You will be sicker. Things will not go well. Yeah.
Exactly. So see, it's just, I've always believed it, but you are a walking example of how having the right attitude can manifest such a healthy lifestyle and a life of prosperity. I mean, look at your life. You have an amazing husband. You two battle through this, him halfway across the world and how it's working out. I think it's fascinating. What gave me goosies is take me back to that book. When you said you had a book or she handed you a book and you had $7,000 and you just flipped through the book. What was this book that you were flipping through
It
about?
was a local technical college. I had never remember I was the first high school graduate in the family, including my mom. She had not graduated. My brothers did not graduate, and I am the baby. I never even thought about going to college. Although my mom was adamant I had to graduate from high school, and in her mind, she wanted me to go to college. So she literally put this book in front of me. I've never seen anything like it. I hadn't I had lots of high school friends who were going to college, but I never looked at the books with them. It was just very odd to look at it. Credits and, courses and, possible degrees, and it looked like a IKEA direction booklet to me, and
That's a
IKEA wasn't
great
even popular back there.
analogy. I love that analogy.
Yeah, so literally, I'm just looking at it, and I had no aspirations. I worked at a lumber yard back then. I've done a lot of different, odd jobs until I became a nurse, but I had no idea what I was even looking at, and I didn't have any passion per se. I liked teaching, I thought, but I did not want to be a teacher. So I literally just flipped through it. And then I looked at the prices of it was a technical college, so it was a certificate rather than a degree. And I just looked at the prices, and the price is what led me to that medical assistant course.
Because of the prices.
Yep.
Because you could afford it.
Yep. Yep. My
I
mom
love
had
it.
this lump sum of $7,000, and she goes, "You can have all of it, but you have to go to college." And
Oh,
she had got that lump sum from my biological father had moved to a different state and had to pay some back child support. And she said, "This is your money, but you can't have it unless you go to college."
and look at what you ended up doing. And look at
Right?
the feel. Okay, so here's the other serendipitous thing. And I know you just mentioned it, but I don't want anybody to miss this, Cherri, that she foresaw and knew that you going to college, she really had her like a nudge of nursing, right? Healthcare,
Oh, for
nursing.
sure.
And yet she ends up, crossing over, going to heaven and passes from, cancer. And yet all along, the nudge for you to be in the nursing community and to do that for a profession. And look how it's come full circle because now you always said you wanted to teach. Well, now you're teaching nurses how to be great nurses and then to
right?
educate and awareness. This is crazy serendipity. I
It
love
just,
it.
everything happens for a reason. I'm a firm believer in that, even if we don't like it. I still miss my mom every day. She's been gone 12 years, but everything happens for a reason.
Well, and you know what? Now we have to end on this because I'm a big, we met, we talked about this. And when you met my husband and his name's Steve.
Oh my
And
gosh.
remember this? And
Yes.
then you were like, so I will let you tell this part because you can tell as much as you want. But the fact that you mentioned your mother had been married multiple times, but tell her
Yes.
the impact of the name Steve in your life. This is
Yes.
classy.
So my mom, as I said, she passed at 50 and she was married 6 times. She's been married to 3 Steves, 2 Dans, and Dan happens to be my husband's name,
That's
and
right.
a Jim. And Steve is the name. The third Steve is the stepfather who raised me, and I still see on a regular basis, and he checks in with me all the time. So I have a special spot in my heart for anyone named Steve. So right away, your husband and I connected there. But I do find it interesting that she also married 2 Dans, and so did I, and that worked out well.
Okay, then
For me.
really think about the word, like what you just said. There was 3 Steves, then 2 Dans plus a Dan. So the number 3 is a big number for you too, my friend. Remember that, right?
Oh, maybe it is.
Uh-huh. There's something about 3s for you. And if we hang up and you start thinking about this for the rest of the day, you have to ping me and let me know and go, oh, I didn't realize that
There
in
was
my
another
life,
3.
these 3s, there's another element of 3. It's so cool how this works, Well, you are, I mean it. I love that we met. We weren't even going to go there that night. I don't remember the course of events, but how we ended up there because we love that place. And I have to say that, and it was just the 3 of us in there for quite some time.
It
And
really was.
yeah. And then now getting to celebrate you and just know that your joy, your light is what people need. Your company's blessed. Those nurses are blessed. And I just want to say thank you for sharing yourself with me. Thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. And the same for me as well. I was not going to go there that night. I don't normally go in by myself. So again, one of those things meant to be.
Totally. And should we tell everybody? You're like, I've never actually done anything like this, So, and I'm like, good, because you don't have to have a script. You're just going to go with the flow and see how simple and easy it is.
It was. I didn't have my PowerPoint to follow. I do a lot of presentations. I usually know what I'm going to talk about. So this was very different, but it did go very smoothly, I think.
I love it. Well, I'm going to ask you something just to wrap us up. And I haven't asked a lot of guests this question in a while, but I would love to know, because you've had so many incredible experiences and monumental things in your life, go back to maybe it was your 20-year-old self or maybe your 17-year-old self when you graduated from high school and wasn't even thinking about college, but go back to that younger version of you. And Cherri, based on who you are today and the life you've lived and all your experiences, what advice would you give your younger self when she was just graduating high school, based on what you know now and who you are?
Go to college sooner. It seems terrible, but right away, I didn't even have to think. Like, that just is what popped in my mind. I really thought, sorry, let me rephrase that. Go back to college. So, I did go to the technical school I think I was 18. I would have, in my 20s, I would have went back to school sooner. I waited too long.
There you go. So
I would have taken the loan. I would have taken the loan. You can always pay it off. There will always be bills to pay. I definitely would have done it sooner.
I love that. And I love that you said it. You just knew it popped right into your head. You didn't even have to think twice.
Nope.
And yet you did it. And it was all in the right timing for you and especially for your mom.
And I was one of the oldest people in my class when I graduated college from nursing school. So maybe there was a reason for that too. I helped mentor some of the young folks.
Well, all I can say is when I met you and then you told me you'd been married you were going on 24 years, I was like, no, you're not. There's no way. Because I looked at you and was like, there is no way. And you were like, oh, and you told me your age. I'm like, no way, I don't believe you. And you were like, so see, whatever was meant to be was meant to be. Well, thank you, Cherri. Thanks for being here with me. And I can't wait. We'll ping each other and let each other know when we're going to be back down there. You'll have to meet up with us.
All right. Okay? Thanks so much, Holly. Have a good day.
You too,
Take care of yourself. Stay healthy. Don't use that word safe anymore.
Okay, I won't. No safe. All healthy.
No safe. All healthy.
Okay.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you for joining me for another awesome celebration of you. If you were inspired by this story, please share it with your family and friends and hashtag Your Story Matters. I'd love to hear from you, so please leave a comment on iTunes. And absolutely, please come to my website, hollydowling.com. Leave a comment there too, and while you're there, pick up your free gift. Most importantly though, just remember that your life is a gift from God. What you do with it is your gift back.